this is how you get buy-in at the executive levels. You just show them the data. You say like, how are we different from, thousands of other companies that are just like us in our same sector, and like it's working for them. Why won't it work for us? Why are we different from them? Hey, I'm Steve McGhee. I'm a reliability advocate at Google Cloud. I was an SRE for a long time, and now I help people build more reliable systems on the cloud.
Hi, I'm Kyle Campbell, founder of CTO.ai. We are a modern development platform that helps companies measure the software developer experience. Been an entrepreneur and a self-taught software engineer for a long time, and love to help developers build internal developer platforms. One of the things I'm interested in understanding is the business case for DORA, right? Because I think as software engineers, we always want to make things more efficient. We always want to optimize. There's no shortage of good ideas bottom up. But often the challenge becomes creating, organizational or business sponsorship for that change and what that change is going to impact. From your point of view, where do you usually see, let's say, executive or business sponsorship coming from? And how do you think that's measured, in the incremental kind of stages or early stages of DORA? Because as you hinted, early time to value is important for any kind of organizational change, right? But what becomes the sort of like business case that an engineer should be thinking about for why a business is going to want to drive DORA, and who generally are the ones that are going to be sponsoring it?
That's a good question. So we mentioned earlier that like DORA can be well executed from the bottom up, but that also often needs a sponsor. So I kind of call this like it's bottom up, but it's also top empowered maybe. So you kind of need both, because if you don't have executive buy-in or leadership buy-in, and people are off spending a bunch of time doing something else, like it's going to potentially get questioned somewhere. People are saying, what are these folks doing over here all the time talking about these numbers, and like why aren't they like busy typing their fingers onto the keyboard more? The point, though, of DORA is to show these stakeholders that this stuff that seems not super connected to delivering value, right? When it's like, well, we're trying to make sure that like our tool chain like delivers more times in smaller batches, or whatever it is we're trying to achieve. Often we have leaders who they might not get that that's better, and they don't really have the time to learn it, or they don't really have the ability to have someone tell them, hey, actually, no, smaller batches are better. So what we do is we show the statistics saying there are thousands of companies out here. The ones who adopt this capability, smaller batch sizes, make more money, right? Like it's pretty hard to argue against that. And they might say something like, well, that's that must be those fancy, software only companies. We're a manufacturing company. And we can say like, we've also divided in like, here are manufacturing companies just like you, similar pattern, smaller batch size, still better. And then like at that point, this is how you get buy-in at the executive levels. You just show them the data and you say like, how are we different from, thousands of other companies that are just like us in our same sector, and like it's working for them. Why won't it work for us? Why are we different from them? And they'll probably say like, well, okay, maybe it's worth trying. Right. And so then we invest in it for a while, we see the outcome, and then we'd say, this is actually pretty good. Let's keep going.
Yeah, the manufacturing example, I think, is very interesting because I've always have believed that not almost all, most of the practices that we adopt in software engineering is actually driven from manufacturing, whether it be Kanban, Agile. A lot of these things are driven from those early value streams where people were building it. So I think it's a powerful use case to be able to look at that and say, here's kind of like how we would measure throughput in a traditional sense, and here's how it can be applied. Do you usually see like a particular role have a strong interest in DORA out of the gate in an organization top down? And one thing that I'm curious about is, to what level do you think they understand it before it starts driving at bottom up adoption? Because I think the meeting of those two understandings is where the magic happens, obviously, right? But part of what I'm trying to draw out here is an understanding for the teams, the individuals who are trying to drive change bottom up, in who are their sponsors, and how can they help them to make sure they're really well informed, or maybe you're seeing lots of executive leaders who are the ones who are really well versed in what DORA offers.
Yeah, normally we hear from like essentially the middle first. We hear from like second to third level management of, teams that have like one or several engineering teams below them, who recognize some patterns that could be improved. And generally it's not coming from the top first. It's coming from someone in the middle who's saying, I have a bunch of teams who could use this improvement, I think. Right. And they've read the Accelerate book and they've seen the reports and they're like, hey boss, like up the chain, we're going to try this thing for a while. And here's why. Like then you sort of feed the stats upward, and then you feed the like, here's how we're going to do it, folks. And here's like the survey we're going to take, or here's how we're going to measure some stuff downwards towards the teams. And you see how that works. So it tends to be like approximately like, senior manager, VP area of interest. It's not always the case. Sometimes it does come from the CEO. Like the CEO saw a talk and they're like, we're going to do DORA, and great. Why not?
The old middle node algorithm to put it on Silicon Valley. Okay.
That's right. If you want to learn more about DORA, check out dora.dev. And you can join our community as well. There's a URL, dora.community, which is an actual URL. You can type it into your browser. And where we meet up a couple times a month to talk about DORA and how they're adopted within communities and organizations. And then keep a lookout for Ask DORA. I call it DORA Bot. But we have an LLM that's trained on all of the DORA material for the past 10 years. And you can ask it any question you'd like to better understand all the material within the DORA reports over the years. And don't forget to check out the Accelerate book as well. It's 10 years old and it still rings true.
If you're looking to advance your CI/CD practices and get DORA metrics automatically through that tool, check out CTO.ai. We will help you set up your CI/CD process to automatically collect and search and report on the DORA metrics that come out of your CI/CD practices. And then you can use those and compare them with the word of your team to understand how to continuously improve over time. I want to say a big thank you to Steve from DORA for joining us, and we'll see you soon.